Okay. So your first set of questions is basically you're going to have to identify if it's a direct variation, an inverse variation, or neither direct or inverse. So in these are what I will call basic version ones, where y equals 3x. That's clearly going to be a direct variation when it's multiplied with the constant.
Is it gonna be easy ones like that?
No. So an inverse would be like y equals 4 over x, where x is on the bottom. Very important. 4 over x, where x is on the bottom, or your other variable. And then there's the neither. And this occurs when you have a plus or minus. Direct and inverse variation should only be interacting in a multiplication or division. Direct, inverse, neither.
Those are the three types. We have to
It'll be
bypass.
yes,
I know right, like what it is.
yes.
So D is when it's multiplication, I is when it's division.
Very important though. Let's say if I had something like this. Let me do it again. Y equals x over 2. This is a direct variation because it's the same thing as saying y equals 1/2 x. X is still a number on top of the fraction or numerator. Versus here, the x is on the denominator.
I mean, like if it was X over 3, it'd also be.
X over 3 will still be direct variation.
So it depends basically on just the x placement.
Yes.
So let's
But
say
also there will be a problem.
also
Like,
x is on top, then it's direct.
Yes.
But if it's
there will
on
be a
bottom,
problem where
it's
it's like 2x to the third plus 2, and then like.
Well, as soon as you see that plus, you know automatically
Okay, so 2x to the third, and there will be an x in the bottom or something like that.
no exponents. It's pretty simple. It's just x and y. But I could give you something like this: xy equals 10. At this point, you might be like, "Oh, it's neither."
It's gonna be in the bottom. It's gonna be inverse.
But when you divide x on both sides,
Inverse.
it becomes y equals 10 over x. Identify that's inverse. So
There will
you
be questions just like this.
couple of questions like that.
just solve it or just identify it.
Identify it, which might involve moving something around.
So this is an inverse?
That would be an inverse in that case.
Okay.
Okay. Remember, plus or minus causes it to be neither.
Is that all we have to do for these types of problems?
Yes.
What's the rule?
Yeah.
Wait a second. So how can I divide inverse or direct? What's the difference?
Inverse is when x is on the numerator or be multiplied to your constant. While x, if you want some, you can have some. The x over here is the denominator, aka it's the constant divided by your variable.
Is there gonna be an example? Is there gonna be a question on the test where you're gonna ask us? You know, like on one of the homeworks, it was you have to rewrite it. Like.
So I'm looking at the homework I gave you. The first one in 5.1 on page 307, 3 to 10 is like those kind of questions where I ask you, is it direct, is it inverse, or is it neither? Literally like that.
We have to pay $5 for these.
Where he's recording.
You had us, well, the book is more like this.
Yeah, yeah.
You had us look at the book. And the question was,
Like if it's x and y, I'm going to give you that next. Ready?
no, is it gonna, like, you have to rewrite it as like a equation. Here, I'm looking at it.
What number on the homework? Or in the homework pages at least.
Use the given values to write an equation related to x and y.
Yeah, yeah. Let me write it how I'm going to write it. All right. Next section. Not graphing yet. Next section. This is still 5.1 technically. All right. Our next section. Put your names on those homeworks if you're handing them in late. All right. For this one, I'm going to tell you, this is a 5.1. If I tell you y varies, let me actually type it. Y vary, yeah, if y varies directly with x, and when x equals, let's say 10, y equals 60, what is x, or what is y, I should say? What is y when x is 7? Okay. So, there's two parts to this question. The first part is in the first sentence. Y vary directly with x. So you need to know when you see that word directly, is going to be y equals x times a, or a times x, doesn't matter.
The constant. So
A is some constant number that'll be true for the whole question.
Wait, y equals x. What is
So when you
y?
Choose the number.
No, you don't choose a random number.
Wait,
You'll
what
find
did
the
you
number
say
though.
A equals?
It's some constant number.
So you just find what a.
Yes.
when you see y there, you go right through that, so you just y equals x, right?
Yes.
And then I believe the first two parts. The first
Let me do the work. Let me do the work, okay? So I could get it recorded and clear for everybody. So then what I'm going to do first is plug in x is 10 and y is 60. That will allow me to find what a is. So a equals 6.
Wait, so you're saying, that's how
Well,
you,
I don't get it.
Go ahead, Mongolian.
wait, so you're saying that when x is 7,
Real. It's 60 divided by 10.
y is 6?
Oh.
When x is 60 and y is 60, that must mean the a value had to be 6 in order for this statement to be true.
No, that's what I'm saying. Because it says, what is y when x is 7?
Now, so then the second part of your question is what is y?
That's only the first part.
Yeah, that was the first part. The second part is what is y when x is 7? So y equals, I know what, it should be xa. Y equals, I know this is 7. And I know this is 10. I'm sorry, not 10. 6.
Wait, what?
So y equals 7 times 6?
42.
42.
So just that?
Wait,
It's
so
just
That's a
that,
part of it.
That would be that for that question.
Yeah, so
You'll be done for that question.
You just plug in,
Is this the hardest
the
one?
a. You just
No,
plug in the A.
graphing's harder for
You
you.
just plug in the a for the y, right?
Yeah,
Do you do like
That's
strategy?
so facts, though. Because then you want to
When I get there.
A values, you already have your x for
Is this
y.
a different unit?
No, it's 5.1.
It's 60
This is still
equals
5.1.
10 times
Is it
a.
5.1, 5.2?
And how many is on it? It's 5.1 to 5.4.
Okay, so
Three.
then
5.3.
6, right?
and 5.2, I'm kind of,
It was you just
you're
plug-
not going to really be testing on that. I'll just do it in terms of 5.3, so you see what that means.
Wait, so
What are we
5.2?
testing on?
5.2, like the style 5.2 does it, you could do it in 5.3 style. So I'd rather you just do it that way. So you have one way to do every question.
Is there like a
Is
calculator?
it the ones that y equals?
You need a calculator to graph the final part.
No, but is there like a calculator for trick?
Trick?
Because
You,
some tests have like tricks. So like you could answer easy.
you could graph to help you figure it out, but it's not a trick.
I'm opening her locker.
Y varies,
So this is still 5.1.
yes, inversely with x.
So when it's inversely, then you know it's divided.
Yeah.
So then-
When,
So it's y equals x over a.
yeah. No, other way around. A over x.
Over x.
So x is 7. Y equals 12.
And it's the same concept. You just do that and-
Yeah. So the concepts are the same. You just have to know which word's which.
Is it
What
still not
is
saying, like, Charles, is it
X
still not saying?
equals, what is
These
y
are the tests.
Oh, yeah, who did this?
when x is
Yeah. Is this thing you sent?
4?
What? How do you smell it? I also do. You walked in like. That's crazy.
All right. First part.
That's crazy.
If y varies inversely with x.
What is it?
So inversely means y equals a over x. Very important. X is on bottom, a is on top. So if we know that, we could solve for a.
Wait, you're blocking?
12 equals a over 7.
So then
We're going to times 7 on both sides.
y equals
84 equals a.
And then you just do.
So after you figure that out, you could figure out what is y when x is 4. Since I know what a is, y equals 84 divided by 4. Y equals 21.
so good.
Or do you get the
This
fourth?
is such a free.
Yeah, wait, what? Wait, is this all it is?
Oh, this is just 5.1.
I'm saying 5.1 and then the rest of
Wait, go back for 1 second.
The rest is just like the lines and the axes. Yeah, the axes.
I'll just type it here, I guess so.
Did you put anything in the review video that I'm gonna like mess up on?
Y varies. Oh no, let's do Z. Wi-Fi. Y varies jointly with x and inversely
X times Y over Z or something.
with z. When x equals 10, z equals 3 or 4, y equals 50. What is y? Actually, what is z when y equals 3, 30? Nope. And x equals 12. I don't know. Okay.
So now it's the same thing, y equals, and then you should add z and a, right?
It's Z
So let's see.
X times A over
So first we need to set the equation just like before. What did I use? Blue or green? Red actually.
On the last review, like last week, we didn't do it.
So pay attention.
Review right now,
No, we didn't.
so-
Wait. No, I'm telling you, last week. No, we didn't. I was thinking
So can you go up for a minute, please? For literally a second. The first one, I just forgot to write the number. You have the first one or not? No, because
So y varies jointly with x and inversely with z. So y varies jointly. Know that jointly is the same thing as directly, okay? So y varies jointly with x. So x should be on top. And inversely with z. So that means z is on the bottom. Okay? So remember, inversely means it's going to be on the bottom. Jointly or directly should be on top.
It'd always be jointly and mostly together.
I can write whatever I want in this section.
No, you don't. Sure. It's just like, you see how when it says y varies with x? So just imagine x, imagine y is your a, right? So a is just jointly with x. And then it says inversely, so it's under, and then it's above.
So the first part of information helps me find my a value.
Depends on what he said.
So when x equals 10, z equals 4, and y equals 50,
What size?
what is my a value? So 10 divided by 4, 5a over 2, equals 50, times 2 over 5, times 2 over 5,
Why would you do that?
a equals 20.
Like you just multiply 2 and then divide by 5.
That's doing that in one move though.
But you also do that in 17.
You're right.
Wait, why did wait?
So then
What does that say?
Wait, what'd you do with the 4?
I'm getting confused.
Yeah.
I reduced 10 over 4 to 5 over 2.
Oh, you do reciprocal.
You can do whatever you need to do to find a.
Sure, you just do it the regular way.
Oh, I can't just multiply by 2?
Yeah, you can just multiply it too. And then you can divide by
Yes, you can multiply by just 2.
Wait, what did you do?
you simplify it out and then
So then, what is z when y is 30 and x is 12? So pay attention. I asked you what z is. So you're going to do 30 equals x is 12 times my a value 20 over z. I'm going to multiply z on both sides to get it away from the bottom. So 30z equals 12 times 20 to 40. 30 divided by 30. Z equals 8.
Oh, wait.
Wait, miss, so what was the equation after?
What's the equation? It's still the same equation. I just replace y and x. So it's 30, 12 times 20 over z. So you just got to pay attention.
So the z at the beginning is just because you multiply it out. So it's,
I multiply z on both sides to get the z out of the base or out of the denominator.
and then you're solving for the.
Yeah. Because I asked for what is z. So you got to solve for z.
What happened? How do you know for a fact that it's the same like jointly and inversely?
It's one question. This would be like question number 3 in that case. You know what I mean? So it's all within the same thing.
And, okay.
All right.
And the next part is just like the graphing with calculator.
Yes, the cracker.
Can you go back to 1 second?
All right.
No. This is the beginning track. Go.
The first part should be free, really, because it's just basic algebra after you set it
So
up.
you're calling these freebies.
Next section is just the graph.
It's free for me.
For you?
Yeah, for me, it's a free test.
So I want you to take the
'Cause
test
it's
and
easy.
see what you get.
I promise you guys.
That's what I said.
You did so bad.
Unless you want to correct me.
No, it's easy. It's easy, but if you don't know what this is, it's hard. Like, it takes
That's in
you
life
like-
in general. That's true. Every 60 seconds, a minute
I
pass.
see you get it wrong when you got the answer. I swear.
It's really not that hard. You just have to know like two formulas. It's like y equals ax, y equals a over x.
Okay.
Oh, graphic.
I don't like graphics.
All right.
5.2.
Put this as 5.3 because I'm going to do everything in the version of 5.3, okay?
So 5.2.
5.2 just introduced the asymptotes, right?
Yeah, basically.
That's basically-
Oh, so we don't really need to like slow
What's an
down.
Nah.
asymptote? Yeah, what's an
Horizontal
asymptote?
asymptote.
You have bigger problems if you don't know what an asymptote is. All right. There are three versions. There are three scenarios.
You know how, like,
That-
it looks like the thingy-
Guys. There are three scenarios when it comes to rational functions. There's, first off, when I say P and Q, when I talk about the P and Q, I'm talking about the power of the biggest exponent, or the power of the exponent, of the largest exponent on the top, and Q is the power of the largest exponent on the bottom. So there's three scenarios. The first scenario is when P is greater than Q, okay?
So that's good.
So that
If
means-
less than Q, then it's zero, right?
Wait, what is the
You'll see when we get there.
So that means that's a vertical asymptote, right?
So let's see. So first off, let me write a question. Let me think. X squared minus 2. And let's do
Oh, this
x
is where you want to get the
minus
the asymptote.
3.
Oh, is this where you circle?
Not 2. Let's do 4. My bad. So it's a clean number, okay?
Is this where you like circle
So
the
it's
things?
the actual-
You'll see. All right. There are going to be 6 things you need to find for each question. They're kind of paired off. The horizontal asymptote, the vertical asymptote.
You can write all those down on the
Yeah, so it'll be like a slot.
Except y.
X-intercept,
Range.
Y-intercept.
You know the domain in the ring.
Domain, range.
Oh,
the domain range.
Wait, then how come the homework you don't remember putting them in a range for all?
Is it with,
You need to know domain and range for the test.
Actually, it's
the domain and range always.
All right. So for this question,
the HA would be 0 with the line in it.
so in this case, first off, our horizontal asymptote is dictated by the P and Q situation. When P is bigger than Q, you have no asymptote, okay?
There's 0 with the line in it.
Good. It is no. You could also write no asymptote, okay?
No.
No.
I just wrote 0 without the line.
Because
0 line's fine. I'm just saying that's the
the
symbol.
bottom is bigger than the top.
What?
It's supposed to be the bottom.
The top is bigger than the bottom.
No, for there to be an horizontal.
When we get there, you'll see exactly what they are.
So P over Q means no asymptote.
Yep. Next one. VA. So VA is your vertical asymptote. Let me use a different color. That is, you're going to set the Q equals 0. Your vertical asymptote is where your X value can exist, where it cannot exist. Which means if the bottom becomes 0, it's a place where it cannot exist. So we set the bottom to 0, aka Q to 0. So I'm going to set X minus 3 equals 0. So X equals 3. Which means your vertical asymptote is that X equals 3.
So my vertical asymptote is 3.
X equals 3, yeah.
Wait, X equals 3?
Yeah.
I would write X equals 3 because that's the more proper way to do it.
And if it was the opposite way around, if it was Q was greater than P, would you just do that to the top?
No, I'll tell you when we get there. The x-intercept. The x-intercept is where it causes the y value to be 0 or your result to be 0. Your result will be 0 when the top equals 0. So that's setting P equals 0. So x squared minus 4 equals 0, plus 4 on both sides. X squared equals 4, square root both sides. X equals plus or minus 2. So your x-intercept is plus or minus 2. You could also write them separately, 2 comma 0 and negative 2 comma 0.
This is so simple.
I just write plus minus 2.
Yes, yes. Next one, the y-intercept. is when I plug in 0 for x, my result will be my y-intercept. So this is what I call f of 0 equals y, or what when I plug in 0, basically. So I'm going to plug in 0 for every x I see. X 0 squared minus 4 over 0 minus 3. This is going to reduce to 4 over 3. So my y-intercept is at 4 over 3.
Does it cancel out?
Double negative.
Cancel that.
All right.
You are one.
Now, this is a little trippy because it's kind of flipped, but your vertical asymptote is x equals 3. And this is kind of why I tell you to write x equals 3. Because your vertical asymptote is x equals 3, which means at 3 you cannot have a coordinate point. You cannot have a coordinate point. That means it is going to be your domain everywhere but 3, because it cannot exist at 3. So in that case, it is going to be x does not equal 3. So it's kind of inverted from the vertical asymptote. You basically are taking the number from the vertical asymptote. There could be. Let me think. Is there one?
Wait, so it just the bottom number with the minus?
No, because if you didn't have a bottom number, if you didn't, no, not on your test.
Wait,
Not on your
What
test.
if P is less than Q? What if P?
Sure. Domain is where all the x values could be. You remember, our vertical asymptote is where the x cannot be. So they're just inverted of each other. They're opposites. So if your vertical asymptote is at 3, your domain is not 3.
So it's always no matter what.
Okay.
not-
The opposite
So
of your
it's the
vertical
opposite
asymptote.
Even for
It's the
Q-
opposite of the VA.
Yes. And you guess what R is going to be?
Opposite of the
Opposite of the horizontal asymptote. In this case, there is no horizontal asymptote.
So it's 0.
So there's no.
No.
Oh.
That means I could go everywhere.
All that
So all real numbers.
You're gonna always be all real numbers.
If there's no horizontal asymptote, it would be all real.
More than P.
What's up?
What if Q is more than P?
What if Q is more than P?
It's massive.
Well, I'll get to that when I do my next question.
First of all,
Those are separate questions where we do the whole thing again. Yo.
working backwards. That means remember like a few chapters ago work with the graphing questions with domain and range.
Yeah.
And I think for Q, for example, it's always all real, all real. Does that mean that if we're domain questions like
There's and somewhere in that equation, in that function, if I plug in a number, I can find any number on it. Eventually.
no, what I mean is like those questions like if it's a cube one, right?
Yes.
It can be all real numbers. That means that the horizontal asymptote would no.
Yes.
Oh,
That's true. All right. So now here's the graphing part. So you get, how I would grade this? You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 point for each section. Plus the graphing is going to be 2 points because it's a little bit more complicated.
How many questions
Is
are
that
there?
gonna be?
I'm going to have, we'll see, we'll have probably 2 questions. It could be of the 3 versions.
I respect that.
All right, because this is so involved. All right, first one, horizontal asymptotes. I would graph that, but I don't have any, so nothing to graph. Vertical asymptotes, as x equals 3.
So you go 3 to the right, and it's like a dotted line.
Excellent. I'm making a 3 dotted line at x equals 3.
up, 3 up.
3
He did it
is a
perfectly.
vertical asymptote, but you find the point going right. You go to x equals 3 and then make a line there.
One is like this.
Horizontal.
Bro.
Next one,
Vertical.
x-intercepts. That's at positive 2, so I'll put 1 here, and negative 2 is x-intercept, so you're on the x-axis.
Always gonna be
Wait.
plus minus.
Not necessarily.
So you put a dot there?
Just put 2 dots there.
Yes.
So you just put the, if it's the x-intercept, let's say 3, I put 2 dots at both 3s.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it was 1 and negative 2, you put a dot at 1 and a dot at negative 2. It's whatever the 2 numbers you find.
How would you put down 4 over 3?
4 over 3, it's a little bit in between 1 and 2. So make sure it's a little bit in between 1 and 2.
But that one's just 1 because it's not plus minus.
There's no plus minus. Yeah, it's just 1. Your y-intercept, you should never have multiple y-intercepts or you don't have a function anymore. Your domain and range has nothing to do with the graphing, so you don't have to worry about that.
So then you put your calculator right.
Now, to get the curve of it, so technically you could just plug in at 0, at 1, at 2, and start plotting those dots. That's a waste of time. You have a calculator, use it to your advantage. So we're going to put it in the calculator. I'm going to show you how to put it. Make sure you put parentheses or you're going to mess up.
Y'all need your charger.
So it's going to be x squared minus 4 close the parenthesis, then divide, open a new set of parentheses. So x minus 3.
Which one is this for?
Is this one?
It's the win. We just had this conversation. Yeah, I bet you she around her too.
Now, I made up this question randomly, so when you graph it, you only see the bottom part. Technically, there always is a top part. I'll make sure to make it so it works. But let me just zoom it as if this is what you got. So in this case, zoom 6 would be standard. So you look at this, look at your general curve. You can figure out that means I'm going to have a general curve like this. And your curve should be hitting what? All the points you graphed.
So wait, Mr. Wall, there's only going to be like the thing where we do that when it's when it's horizontal and vertical.
Depends on the type. So this is a P is bigger than Q situation, and it's more particular than just.
Whenever it's Q,
Yeah.
is greater than P, is it going to be like the...
You'll see the shapes.
If
Yeah.
there is a horizontal asymptote, how do you graph that?
Yeah, you just make a dotted line sideways.
Okay.
So let's do one with a.
Oh,
Let's continue.
so it's-
All right. Again, this will be a P equals Q situation. So let's do x squared minus 4, x squared minus 9. Okay. Actually, let me do it this way. Let's do 2x squared minus 8.
Yeah.
So it's actually clean numbers, okay?
Oh, is this where you circle the coefficients?
These are the type of questions on the test. I am making them up right now, so the problem is I don't know if this fits the graph, but otherwise the test will be made to fit on the graph. All right. So horizontal asymptote, vertical asymptote,
Oh, just equals the
x-intercept, y-intercept, and domain and range. All right. Horizontal asymptote is based off P and Q. Because P equals Q, when I say P equals Q, that means the power of the top of the biggest X and the power of the biggest X on the bottom match.
You don't like
You take the coefficients. So there's a 2 in front of here. There's a 1 in front of here. So the horizontal is 2 over 1
divide it.
equals 1. Or over 2, I'm sorry. Equals 2. You would divide it. Yeah.
Wait, yeah, why did you do that?
So that's 2 equals y. I would recommend putting y so it helps you. Because the powers are equal, you take the numbers in front of the said powers. I don't care about any other numbers, just the one of the biggest ones. So in this case, my horizontal asymptote is at 2. And I put 2 equals y. If you wrote just 2, you'll be fine. But I recommend writing 2 equals y. It just helps you out. Your vertical asymptote is all the same steps as the other question. Q equals 0. So I make the bottom equal 0. You're going to figure out it is plus or minus 3. So x equals plus or minus 3. For the x-intercept, it's the same thing as the previous question, where p equals 0. So stop talking. So it's 2x squared minus 8 equals 0. A little bit of algebra, you'll figure out it's x equals plus or minus 2 in this case. So plus or minus 2. Y-intercept is when you plug in 0. So f of 0. So in this case, when I plug in 0, it'll eventually become 8 over 9. I guess I'll write that here. 2, 0 squared minus 8 over x, or 0, squared minus 9. P equals 0. Make the top equal 0. The domain is based off your vertical asymptote because it's x. That's why I put the x there to help you remind me. So your domain, if vertical asymptote is at positive 3, negative 3, your domain does not equal to positive negative 3. And your range is based off your vertical asymptote or horizontal asymptote. So if you have a horizontal asymptote at 2,
It's y, whatever.
it does not equal 2. Okay? Well, now let's just put that graph together. So I'll get to it.
Is that going to be on the test?
Wait, why is it like not?
It's the opposite of your horizontal asymptote.
What does it take for DMR?
So green, in this case, our vertical asymptote, has two of them. So you're writing two vertical asymptotes.
Now it's gonna be the one where it's like
And then you have, what else we got? X-intercepts, we have one at positive, -2 and +2.
what's with the how many why?
Wait, what's the line going horizontal?
It's the red line,
Yeah, what's the red line?
horizontal asymptote. The vertical asymptote, they're the ones that are going vertical. This one is 8/9, that's a little less than 1. I use purple. Domain and range does not affect your graphing. 2 times 0 squared minus 8. 0 squared minus 9. So then you type that into your calculator. Make sure you use parentheses.
What would it be?
I'm sorry, it was 2. I'll finish this video in the classroom. You guys can do well. Minus 8. No problem. Divided by x squared minus 9.
So how many questions are you gonna be on the test?
Hmm?
How many questions are you gonna be on the test?
So it's going to be a couple of those first sections I did with the direct and inverse and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's going to be 2 graphing questions.
It's just like 1 page test.
It'll fit in 2 or 3 pages because I'll give a whole page for this just because there's a lot of work in it. Yes.
Is this like basically?
Yeah, so why do you think I'm doing it? I'm sorry, that was very rude. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I don't care. 'Cause, it feels like so.
Isn't it Q?
Check it out the video later. I'm just going to
Isn't
go.
it Q more than B now?
What did I do? Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, so Q is bigger than P. in this case.
No. You don't need to write this. You don't need to write this. Just watch the
So-
video.
For this one, let's make one up. Let's say 4 is x minus 2. Let's say this one, okay? So this way, and when P is bigger than Q, you have, again, you're finding your 3 things, or your 6 things, I'm sorry.
But this just matters. The P over Q just matters to the HA, right?
Yes.
So that's
But all the other things are the same, basically. Domain, range. I just want to point out, if you're going to stay for a second, horizontal asymptote, when P is less than Q, it's automatically Y equals 0. No matter, Y equals 0. Yes, Y equals 0. You could come in. No. And the one thing I want you to point out, some people get tripped up by this. The x-intercept is when you make P equals 0, right? The top?
Yeah.
So you say 4 equals
So
0.
there's no x-intercept?
Exactly. There's no x-intercept in that case, okay?
Because can 4 equal 0? No. You're just stupid brain. So there's no.
So then you just do this. Q equals 0. No, I have a pack, 2 packs
Domain or
of them.
range is the opposite of
Hey, I'm happy you took my advice. Did it sell?
We actually sold a few pieces and actually just sold the whole pack straight up.
Mm.
Wait, so domain's the opposite of horizontal?
Michael, is that
Asymptote?
closer?
Domain is opposite, vertical asymptote,
So
range is opposite.
Range would be.
You base it off the letter. So Y, range is Y.
I'm saying, fine.
So this would be Y does not equal 0. And this is X does not equal 2. Your Y intercept, you plug in 0. So you get 4 over 0 minus 2. So that's going to be -2. So your Y intercept is at -2. Let me copy this grid. So in this case, let me send it to, whatever, I'll put it down here. And then from here, oh yeah, I don't really need the domain and range, that's right. Your horizontal asymptote is at 0. Your x-intercept is 2. Vertical asymptote, my bad. X-intercepts doesn't exist. Y-intercepts is at -2, so let me put a dot here. You type in your calculator. I'm just going to tell you straight up. Type in your calculator off video, but it should look like this. Okay?
I'm getting points.
Thank you.
No problem.